Having installed dozens of farms for fish farmers and also observe the trend in which new stocking fingerlings are, I got to notice that most often fingerlings are dying immediately after stocking, and this is at its peak from the 24 hours to 72 hours of stocking them. During this period, mortality of fingerlings is very high, and also from the 7th days to 10th day, that is just within 2 weeks period. After this period, then the mortality will reduce and survival rate increases. But it is very disheartening to see your fingerlings dying helplessly. And for myself, it is very disheartening when clients complain about the death of their fingerlings. In this video, I'm going to look at some of the causes of this death of fingerlings, how to prevent that, and when it happens, how to solve that. Please, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. My name is Abdulaziz Issa. All we do in this channel to share fish farm tips based on our experience and research. In fact, I have a bachelor degree in development education, but I have been a fish farmer for years. Now let's see what caused this mortality in fingerlings. Is stress of transportation. Transporting the fingerlings from the hatching center to the stock farm or to where you're going to stock them. Sometimes through the journey, the fish or the fingerlings are taken through a lot of stress, and for that, it affects them when you stock them. Transporting them with a container as it is shaking on the way, it is stressing them. Oxygen depletion in the container is stressing them, and all this stress weakens their immune system. So when you get them stuck, if you are not fortunate, you stand the chances of losing them. The second thing has to do with the sudden change of environment. Remember, you have just changed their environment to new one. So the water that they were in before, the pH of that water, the dissolved oxygen of that water, the ammonia level in that water, all these water parameters are different from the new environment or the new water that you are introducing them in. And on top of that, the container that you are transporting them, the water that contains them in that container, it is also different water. So when you get to the farm and you are putting them into different water, so that sudden change of environment could also lead to mortality. The third thing has to do with poor acclimatization or no acclimatization at all. Acclimatization has to do with putting the fish with the water that you brought them in the water that you are transporting them, and allow the water to mix gradually and to allow the fish themselves to move from that container into the water themselves. This is what we call acclimatization. Remember, I mentioned that the condition, we are changing their condition. The water that they were in the container is different from the water that we are transporting them in. So now, if you just come and pour the fingerlings into the water, and if the difference of the parameters is huge, this will affect them, weaken their immune system and kill them. But when you put the container in there to float about 20 to 30 minutes, just allow it to be floating, then the temperature is changing. If it is a big container, you can lower it gently to be allowing the water in that container to be filling up with the water in the pond. and that gradual adding the water, their condition will not change instantly. They will feel the gradual change and they'll be adapting to the change. They will adapt to the change. By the time the water is mixed completely and you lower it inside, they are okay with the condition, and you will find out that even themselves will be swimming to the bigger water or to the bigger pond. As they're swimming in, you are tilting it gentle till they all lowered in the water and you see them running into the other places. And note, it is normal to find few dead after transporting them to the flood. That one is normal, especially depending on the length of the journey. Now, this is what we call acclimatization. This is very important. If you don't do it right, or if you don't do it, this will also contribute to mortality of fingerlings. Cause is overcrowding. In fact, a lot of farmers, they will just put up a small pond and they want to put a lot of fish inside. For them, the more fish you have in your pond, the more money you make. This is a huge misunderstanding and it is a huge danger for your fish. It is always good to know the stocking capacity of your farm. Calculate to know the stocking density. If you can't, get someone to assist you. But to just simple guide, at least 10 liters of water is able to produce fish from fingerlings to 1 kg. So when you are measuring, when you are calculating, make sure that in every 10 liters of water you have fish. Let me give you this scenario. Assuming your pond is containing only 1,000 liters of water. So divide 1,000 by 10 and you get 100. It means that you don't have to stop your fish over 100 in that pond. Look, understocking is always better and it gives you better results than overcrowding them. So that overcrowdedness can also lead to the mortality of the fingerlings because they were competing for oxygen, they were competing for space, they were competing for feed, and all these things can lead to serious mortality. And then the last one is low quality fingerlings from the hatching service. In fact, not all fingerlings are of high quality. Some fingerlings, even from their own genetics, are not strong. They naturally have weak immune system. Such fingerlings can easily die. Or they may have stronger immune system themselves, but they are subjected to poor hatching processes, and that weakens their immune system and make them lose and subject them to diseases and mortality. So such fingerlings can also die in masses after stocking them. Having a look at these causes of the high mortality of fingerlings immediately you stock them, let's look at how to prevent that. How do you prevent that from happening? First and foremost, buy your fingerlings from trusted and good hatching service or source. And how do you identify that? You need to find out the track records of the hatchery center in terms of the survival rate, the mortality rate of their fingerlings. If you're able to get this history, that is a sign that you can get better quality fingerlings from them. Or if you don't get that, look at the activeness of the fingerlings. Before you buy them, see how strong they are, how active they are, how energetic they are. If you buy weaker fingerlings, it's a signal that they are diseased or they are weak and they can die. So make sure that they are strong and active, especially when you even give them feed. They are active in feeding. When you see that, that is indication that the fingerlings are stronger. You can now go in for that. Even though I keep mentioning fingerlings, but juveniles are good and also better for start at or beginners. Most of the times we are able to tell the differences. Juveniles are a little bigger than fingerlings, and they are good and recommended if you want to have successful fish farming. Now, another preventive measure is to transport them gently to your farm. During the transportation, try as much as possible to minimize the stress. You can prevent that totally, but try to minimize the stress. Don't subject the container to excessive sunlight. Don't subject the container to excessive shaking. And also, if you are going to keep them for longer time, if it is possible on the journey, you can change the water in the container. That is fine. If you are going to keep the container with the fish more than 8 hours, it is ideal to change the water on the way. And we're also changing the water. Don't pour the water out for the container completely and change the entire water. That can also shock them. Instead, just tilt it, reduce that water level, and top up fresh water to give them fresh oxygen. Some use rubbers where they inflate oxygen into it with the water containing the fish. If that's the case, that's good. But that also, if you're going to take that for more than 8 hours, it is good to always add the oxygen if you have that oxygen pump with you. If you do this, you are going to ensure healthy transportation of your fingerlings, and when you stock them, you'll be healthy. And then we also talk about acclimatization them. Acclimatization or acclimatizing them. I mentioned earlier that is lowering them, gently floating or mixing the water in the pond with them gentle till they adapt to the environment and they swim, or you pour them into the pond. Gentle tilt it, lower it, and they'll swim in. This is the acclimatization. If you don't do that, and you just come and pour them inside once, this could shock them, it could weaken their immune system, and it could kill them. I'm not saying it will kill them, but this is also a huge factor that causes mortality of fingerlings immediately after stocking. Now, you need to prepare the pond before bringing the fingerlings. Whether it is an old pond or it is a new pond, making sure that you at least clean the pond, salt bath it, or disinfect it, and before adding the water, and you will be good to go. Don't just put it in the water and bring the fish. The pond might be infected, and that could lead to the mortality of the fingerlings. And now we can also talk about stocking the right density. Try not to overstock the fish. Like I mentioned earlier, try to calculate the stocking density and to stock them the right way. And understocking is always better, because if you overstock them, like I said, they can also lead to mortality. Now, having known how to prevent, assuming it has happened, how do you then avoid that or solve that? So if you are new to this channel, my name is Abdulaziz Issa. All this channel to share fish tips based on our experience and research. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. And let's dive in. When you notice your fingerlings are dying after stocking them, how do you prevent that, or how do you solve it? First and foremost, check the water quality or observe the water quality. Now, if you don't have a test kit, it means it will be difficult to check it. But with the observation, you observe how the fish are reacting or how they are behaving in the pond. If you see the fingerlings, most of them put their nose or floating on the surface. It is indicating that the water parameters are not conducive for them. Either the pH is high, low dissolved oxygen, or high ammonia. Observe that. Second thing is partial change the water. When you observe the water parameters are not conducive, or even if you don't have that observation, try to reduce the water to 50-40% out and gently top it up to neutralize if there's any infection or disease. Neutralize the water. What you can also do is that you can also add salt solution or bitter leaves This is the remedial, this is natural remedy, which is recommended. And often when my clients call and I'm around, these are the things that I suggest to them. And often when they do it, they find the mortality to either stop completely or reduce till it stops. That is, change the water partially, add bitter leaves or salt, and that's very okay. That is what I recommend, and it's working. You can equally do that if you are facing mortality. Now, what you also do is that remove dead fish immediately. When the fish are dead, don't leave them in the pond. The fingerlings, don't leave them, because when they decay and decompose, they are adding more nutrient and more disaster in the farm. And small time you even see or hear the farm to start smelling. So trying to do that is very important. And another important thing is to give oxygenation or add oxygen as much as possible if you can't. This will also help and guide you a lot. Now, having done that, you will are good to go. And this is why I will now recommend to you that all these talks, if you have the circle aquaculture system, is going to help you a lot. That is the RAS. So the RAS will help you to filter the water and add oxygen. And that the oxygen will always be enough for the fish and you'll be good to go. If you want to learn how to do it yourself, check the link in the description, enroll in the course, and you can learn it yourself. Also, we have a complete comprehensive fish farming course for catfish and tilapia. For setting up, planning, raising, management of farm, everything till harvesting and marketing of your fish. We also have a complete course in the description. You can also check it out. This is going to guide you a lot, and it's also going to reduce the mortality of your fingerlings and even your mature fish as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you also come to the channel, please subscribe. My name is Abdul. It's all these channel for shellfish is based on our experience. I thank you so much, and don't forget to watch my next video in the end screen. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.